The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
While the weather may be shining brightly tonight in Chicago for the virtual side, rain falls in the real-world action. The PRL's NASCAR Cup Series is getting set for a tremendous challenge. Tonight, we're on the streets of Chicago, Illinois, as we look to see who can conquer the streets of the Windy City. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Derek Watson. Our producer this evening, Hugo Weiss, as we get ready for a unique challenge. It started off with a dream around 2019 to see NASCAR make its way to street racing action across the world, to try and bring the race cars to the people. And in turn, after seeing an eNASCAR debut in 2021 for the real-world drivers, an all-star debut for the Coke Series back in 2022, real-world action for Chicago is here. And in turn, for the PRL Cup Series tonight, Derek.
That's right, JP. This is one of four, not one, not two, not three, but four road courses on the schedule. And in my opinion, maybe the hardest or second hardest we're going to face. These drivers are really in for the unknown tonight, as we've never done this before.
Now it's the question mark, too, of how these drivers virtually in PRL will take their week of preparation and put it to task here in this early July race. As mentioned, the first of the four road courses, the many of four road courses, should say, on top of Sonoma. You mix in tracks like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, and the championship decided at Watkins Glen. If you're a championship contender this season, it's because you know how to turn left and right. Speaking of which, why don't we look at how things are turning out so far for those who can turn inside and out across the track. Trent Dinko comes in to denies the points leader early this season over Abner Acosta and Jose Acosta. Landon Mills, intriguing enough, up in the top four. Mills, someone with decent road course experience as well. Chris Hudson tied with Pat Harvey for fifth. Maverick Davis, James O'Brien, Robert Bisson Jr., Tristan Callahan, your top 10 early this campaign after 2 rounds counted. As mentioned, we're at Chicago, where these teams will have private label team hype to chase after. They have a huge expectation when it comes to road course racing in their history. They lead SGE Esports Pioneer tonight. Love Racing, SGE Esports Entourage, and Firestone, your top 5. Firestorm, should say. SGE Esports Apex over the team with the Wolfpack Racing Team, Aerokinetics, and Love Racing Black, your top 10 in the team standings. That's a look top to bottom at the running orders for the points coming into today. Today's debut race for PRL in Chicago, in the heart of the city in Illinois, brought to you in part by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced sim racing designs and builds the most sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products used in Precision 5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, with the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Completely priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com to get a 5% discount code. Use the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker includes products with incredible measure and realism in every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. By Mecha Sim Hardware, a small company from the Czech Republic. Their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Barandis is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit barandis.com. Drivers getting all situated here in Chicago. Qualifying is underway. Under 5 minutes ago in the session, Trent Dinkel, who looked very happy to see the road course swing when we spoke to him after last season's championship. He's in full swing. He's up ahead of his teammate Abner Acosta by almost half a second here at qualifying.
You know, JP, that's interesting to see. Of course, for those who tuned in Wednesday night with Terry Radford and I on the Truck and Xfinity broadcast, on the Xfinity side, we watched Abner Acosta really crush the field here at the street course. I mean, he won by, I think, by over 20 seconds. So to see Abner second and trailing that far, it tells you how different the Xfinity car and the next-gen car really are.
Yeah, we'll see how Trent Dinkel plays out with race conditions. Good example, Shane Van Gisbergen was the way much qualified in real-world action for a reason. See if the speed, though, carries forward in PRL with qualifying positioning. Daniels, Gandy, and Davis, your current top 5. Currently, Trent Dinkel, 3 laps currently recorded on the board. About half the field, in fact, more than half the field, is yet to qualify.
And, you know, that's an interesting strategy here, Justin. I would want to qualify first because one of the biggest tricks to this road course is throttle control. And if I was under the gun and knew what I had to set down to qualify well, I think I would feel the pressure to get on that pedal a little harder than I should, and therefore possibly loop this car around. I would want to get out there first and set the lap and enjoy the rest of qualifying.
A little change to the top of the board. That's Abner Acosta. Make it Landon Mills for the team up to the top of the board all of a sudden.
And quickly here, we're going to see that onboard of Trent Dinkel here. You see his best lap there and his current lap times here coming around this road course. He looks cool as a cucumber, Justin.
Yeah, now he's got to find 0.7 of a second, though, to get up to Landon Mills. Keep in mind, Landon Mills runs for the team at an organization specializing in eNASCAR competition, mind you. So we'll see if he can get up to the 125s like Mills has. This time by Dinkel to the stripe. Can he get a time improvement? No. Not too much enough to be able to get to the pole, and Mills flexing that speed showcased with the team, and they're backing already tonight. And for those who wonder, the team has a background with org drivers like Kevin Kane and so forth. Kevin Kane had shuffled organizations for the start of this year. See how that plays out tonight now for Mills. Here's Acosta. He's got to pick it up too.
And, you know, the benefit to that, of course, as you know, Justin, is when you're with a team like that, that means they get lots of practice, you get lots of notes, you get lots of strategy. One thing that would have to be different, though, for Trent Dinkel, though, is typically teams like the team and other eNASCAR teams get to make their own setups for races like this, as to where Trent Dinkel and teammates are going to have to work with the fixed setup and how different that can feel.
Exactly. That's going to be very big to consider. Here's a look at Jose Acosta, who impressed last season, has impressed very much so this season. Has he gotten those coaching sessions yet? We'll have to wait and see as he moves himself a little bit higher up on the board. John Jones looking to move up as well with the 90 car, up in 14th so far.
You know, what I like about races like this, what is a new track, you know, obviously we've raced at iRacing a couple times in the schedule, but not excessively. And maybe for some of these guys, it's their first time. We're going to see true skill and true talent come out tonight, Justin. It's not going to be about, you know, is this your best track? Because no one's really going to have that skill. We're going to see who's a good racer and who can adapt to the unknown here.
Let's take a look at Pat Harvey, meanwhile. Currently about 1.2 seconds off the pole. And you can tell some of the drivers taking a bit of note, not just from during the week, but also the real-world action. Now that real-world cars for the first time hitting the track earlier yesterday. But in turn, no improvement from Harvey in this qualifying run to close out his session. About less than 30 seconds to work with. Others like Robert Bisson Jr. still trying to get the grip of things. There is an interesting note, apparently. Well, before the rain fell down, Derek, there is less grip on the sim racing equivalent on these streets.
Yeah, that's an interesting point I was thinking about as well. Is how to remember, Justin, that, you know, a lot of times the benefit of the PRL Cup Series is you get to watch the race happen on a Sunday afternoon and then come in here and race on Sunday night and take some notes from what happened in there. But of course, with the rain falling in Chicago today and the slicks being used, that's just not possible here.
It's time for a learning adventure in the heart of the Windy City. It's time to take a look. These drivers will start things off. Grand total about 55 laps estimated tonight. Landon Mills starts on the pole today with Trent Dinkel in second, about half a second the difference. Maverick Davis impressing in his career early in PRL action in third. Abner Acosta, high expectations from the Xfinity Series race, starts fourth. Bruno Mello starts off in the fifth position, also road course specialist, with Pat Harvey up in the sixth spot. In the next grouping, Luke Christian starts alongside Joshua Daniels. James O'Brien's been trying to pick up a lot on the road courses. He starts alongside longtime sim racing veteran Eric Haig. Skip Gandy starts off in the 11th spot alongside John T. Jones in the 90 car. 13th goes to Tristan Callahan. Waldo Walden looking to be found in victory lane from 14th. Robert Bisson Jr., Robert Gambill, the top 16. Charles Sumner and Jose Acosta deep in the field, 4 seconds off the pole in 18th. All the way back in 19th at Patrick Calgio with the 131 car. You see the little 1 on the car. Eric Papineau starts in 20th. Jay McDonald, Tom Amasi wants the final drivers 2 set times. Byron Johnson now starts alongside a driver with some good speed behind him as well. Jeff Chandler has worked with teams like Legacy in the past. Wayne Grassi making his way to the series this season, starts 25th tonight. Another longtime sim racing veteran, Jose Medina, Chad Kibbe, and Richard Pruitt rounding out the grid. So with that, we get ready for the pace lap here at Chicago and its street circuit. Let's talk about first the weather conditions. A little bit cloudy. How about mostly cloudy? No rain in the sim yet. But now it's the question, how do drivers attack this fairly hot track and unpredictable circuit with, well, everything that's happened this week in real life and the virtual?
I think with extreme caution, Justin, you know, we've seen, of course, an NASCAR race happen here. We've had official racing here all week, so hopefully these guys have done some of it. But with extreme caution and patience will probably be the key to victory here versus being aggressive. That'll probably help you find a tire wall like we've seen in the real world today.
Pace lap underway as drivers make their way to East Balboa Drive before getting onto East Congress Plaza Drive. The run up to East Jackson Drive, remember, the real world start zone. See how that's implemented for the sim today. In turn, though, these drivers going to have a quick time to adapt. They're already almost to that start zone line they've talked about in the real world. South Columbus Drive has the finish line.
Yeah, one of a few tracks in iRacing to have this, if you want to call it a feature, Justin. Of course, when we do the 24 hours of Spa at the end of July, that'll be a thing where there's a different start and finish line. I'm not a fan of it. I want to start and finish at the same point. I'm a simple kind of guy, but you know, rules are rules.
See how this plays out. No area to jump off of the pace car. So it looks like we'll be going off to the start and finish line to start off tonight's event on South Columbus Drive. It's a debut track for the PRL Cup Series. We're underway from the streets of Chicago. And a great start for Landon Mills on the inside. Here comes Trent Dinkel trying to keep it outside. But it's Maverick Davis battling hard for second already. No major troubles in the leaders in the wall. It's Landon Mills losing the lead as several drivers take him 2-3 wide to get himself around Dingle to the point.
You know, JP, that's really interesting to see happen so soon. He just probably got a little heavy on the gas trying to keep that lead and wasn't able to get the car turned around, is my assumption.
Also, MSC having issues on the pace lap. We keep going as Mills tries to gather his pace back up. Already struggling to get the momentum back. And already everybody just trying to find their footing here. One of the major send zones today, Columbus Drive, South Columbus Drive up the left side. Utilized there by the Renko back car, the 77.
You know, the one thing I'm surprised about, JP, on lap 1, and maybe you'll have an opinion as well, is how willing these guys are to be too wide. This is the narrowest part of the track, but how willing these guys are to be too wide through these corners, that's something I did not expect as we were prepping for this race.
Also of note, Jeff Chandler already amongst those who's had to visit the pit lane. At least 7 drivers were in turn 11 as well when the green flag dropped. All round towards the back group into the field. So we keep an eye on the battle inside the top 10. First couple laps closing in, a bunch of cars in the pits already. Christian and Mills, mandatory repairs, Derek, from that trouble.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to see. That's not even going to give them inside a pit window. Now, speaking of repairs and damage, Justin, I had a chance to talk to Charles Sumner, one of the PRL admins this week, and he expressed concern that because of how narrow this track is, this could be the first road course in PRL history where we've had to put a 4-course yellow out. Of course, PRL does not want to do that, and the only time they will do it is if they feel there's no safe space to get around the wreck here, and with these narrow corners, that's entirely possible here.
If anyone's wondering, where can that happen? I haven't seen it in the rearward action or with those drivers yet. Ryan Newman managed to do that in turn 8 back when NASCAR made its debut here during 2021 action. That's where East Congress Plaza Drive is for reference. Still, though, keeping an eye on Eric Haig. Seen him a lot in terms of official races in the past. Good to see him now in the league scene. Look ahead, currently holding on to the top 10, trying to keep up with Daniels.
So I think this is what you're referring to right here, Justin. This is where it goes from 4 lanes to 2 and through these kind of S's right here. To me, this is the most likely candidate to have that wreck where they're going to have to put the yellow out if it happens.
Here in one car has gone backwards. It is stuck. The 131 Patrick Calgill. Also the reasoning for Luke Christian's mandatory damage. That section out of turn 4 smacked the wall. Here's also what's going on. Turn on the replay with the 131. And this is a spot you do not want to get stuck. We've seen this with Dexter Dean being in real world get stuck there.
And you know what? Just a little insult to injury when he hit the wall there. So what probably happened here, Justin, if we had an onboard shot of that, you'll probably find out that what happened was he got too excited about pressing the gas pedal, got the RPMs cranked up a little too high before he was ready, and the car looped around on him, is my assumption.
Already about 3.5 minute laps through. Pruitt, by the way, your first major retirement with mandatory damage repair. Mills just finishing up pit stops as well as Byron Johnson now. But Dinko already being kept in bay by Davis and company. Same can be said for much of the packs. No one's really breaking away shockingly too much yet.
No, I think we're only in lap 3. I mean, my experience from Xfinity on Wednesday was it takes about 5 or 6 laps for some tires to wear. And then once that happens is when we're going to see the difference in road course racers who are experienced and rookies. And I think that's when the gaps will start to open, Justin.
Here's a look at Tristan Callahan amongst those who start just outside the top 10. Not too much movement per se out of those from the top 10 or outside the top 10 to it. But Callahan's been amongst those, keeping his marks pretty consistent outside of that wall scrub there, going up East Jackson Drive.
Yeah.
Oh, and Abner Acosta with an issue. Abner Acosta significantly destroyed on the right side of the car. That was from the top 5.
And that's crazy because, of course, Abner won the race Wednesday night by a lot. Looks so comfortable. Just got too much right there in the corner. And walls are bad. And there was a quote, I think, from, I forget who it was on Wednesday night, who told us, maybe it's Ted Lowendick, who said, tire walls are somewhat okay, walls are bad.
Well, that time you got a bit of both.
Yeah, that's the best of both worlds, I guess, right there.
I don't think so. You still hit 2 walls.
Yeah, that's true. No, all kidding aside, it's rough for Abner. We'll see what he can make of this. If he feels the need to go get those repairs, or if he wants to try to tough it out. We'll have to wait and see what happens here.
So some of the car ramrod machines keeping the consistency up with Haig. Haig 12th in the point standings entering the day today. Just scored 32 points at Watkins Glen. Sonoma should say, yet to get a top 10 this season. Speaking of a driver that can pass, James O'Brien, mandatory damage.
So, JP, I talked about in the opening of this broadcast. In my opinion, this is either the toughest or maybe the second toughest road course on the four on the schedule. Pardon me. I know it's in the pit.
Yeah, that was O'Brien nearly getting rammed into by Haig in the car ramrod car.
Yeah, so he has a mandatory repairs, we're being told. But, yeah, he probably could have done a better job at communicating that, or someone missed a memo, one of the two, about his pitting.
Yeah, I've been battling with Josh Daniels. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, though, I was going to come back to topic. This is probably the toughest or second toughest road course on the schedule. Some of us believe that the Indianapolis road course is harder on the driver as far as the track itself. This is a fairly easy track, in my opinion, but I think the unknown of it maybe ranks it up there above Indy.
I mean, I still rank it as very difficult, not just because of the unpredictability, but because of how many tight walls there are. This is almost Belle Isle, but with long straightaways.
Yeah, it's not in the sim, but this reminds me more of the Detroit road circuit that was ran in real life for the IRL a couple weeks ago. Just tight corners, tight tire walls. Yeah, that's what comes to mind when I see this course for the first time.
Funnily enough, that was actually returned back to Detroit. Anytime you mention that, the people in motorsports will say we ran there in the 80s and 90s before Belle Isle. But in regards to Chicago, remember, this track was in tandem, developed in cooperation with iRacing in terms of getting the layout down, the scan down, and as well, it was talked about by some people on social media before today's action that this track had been worked on several times for private races to iRacing, for NASCAR officials should say, to make sure they liked the style of racing they were going to get.
Well, and you can tell that because, of course, in iRacing, pardon me, Justin, there's already multiple layouts of this track where the track has been adjusted multiple times. We've seen IMSA showing a small interest in this track, and I think this track was really fun, both in sim and, of course, from what we've seen today and yesterday in real life. I think the track is doing better than was expected of it.
One of the major differences, if you think back to the 2021 debut to this layout, East Roosevelt Road, there's turn 4 and turn 5 that just came out of. That was originally on the other side of that median, if you think about it. But it also left an opportunity for drivers to get stuck on a runoff area originally. They switched it to that inner median instead, where they've now set out some tents in the rear world action.
Yeah, they have. And, of course, now there's a McDonald's outside of turn 4, JP. It sort of rivals or makes you think of the KFC outside of the track in France. So another fast food joint on a road course.
You know, the funny thing is, you see the McDonald's sign. First of all, McDonald's from the state of Illinois, at least in terms of what is McDonald's today. We're not going to get into that conversation where the first McDonald's is. But I find it intriguing they sponsored that final sector rather than where you just said in turn 4 because synergy.
Yeah, corporate synergy, that's the new buzzword, right? So it is kind of interesting. And these drivers are doing a great job. There was a quote as well from someone in Xfinity Series, I forget who it was, and I apologize to someone listening, who said, if you try to visit the McDonald's in turn 4, it'll be the last turn you ever take on this track. So I'm going to advise you get your drive-through food after the race.
I don't think anyone's going to try that in these race cars today, no matter how much they'll try.
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting about this race, Justin, and the question of when and undercuts comes into play, everyone's going to be required to pit here. Not to reference it too much, but Wednesday night the question was, do you pit or do you stay on an Xfinity car, and what was the advantage? And we saw strategies both ways go different ways. But here you're going to have to pit. So if you're someone right here like the 42 who's in this traffic battle, or if you're someone who's in a car of 3, 4, maybe even 5 car packs if we can find them, do you pit early and get clean air, or do you stay out and get less of a pit stop at the end? All these questions these drivers need to calculate while navigating this tricky track.
Luke Christian having more issues, has lost a lap in terms of his car and incidents after a turn 4 contact hearing. We still continue to go, though, for the time being for the rest of the competitors. 2 seconds already up is the lead. Let's take a look, though, at Josh Daniels. Abner Acosta with the wounded car has lost 21 seconds to the race leaders, and now is under attack by the Love Racing car.
So I think the question will be, how long does Abner sit on pit road when he feels it is time to pit? Does he bother taking any of the damage, or is he just willing to say, hey, you know, with the very unlikely chance of a yellow here at this track, there's no point in fixing it. I just have to live with what I'm stuck with, right?
Kind of is that situation. Because if you come down again to pit, it's going to take you off the cycle, but also you're talking about possibly at least a minute's worth of damage there, optional.
Right, and a pit delta here at Chicago without any damage is about 38 to 40 seconds, I think, on average. So, you know, that's how long it is from lane to lane, including your pit box time. So if you want to add any damage repairs, then it's only going to get worse. Now here we see Robert Besaw. He is up in 12th place, which, if I recall right, I'm trying to look at my second screen, he qualified pretty far down, right?
Yeah, Besaw Jr. was struggling a bit in qualifying around the 17th spot or so before starting his final lap, remember. 15th, in fact, was the starting position. So a +3 so far. As mentioned, it's hard to come to the field. Only Jose Acosta has gained more than 4 spots at +5 who are inside that top 16. Unless you're Chad Gabby, who started dead last. Who did not qualify, rather. Still keeping an eye to see how this plays out, but you also have to keep in mind these are some teammates here who can work in tandem a bit, 2 of the SGE cars.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing, coming back to Jose Acosta for a second, is when he and I spoke pre-race, he said, this is pure survival mode. Stay off the walls and make sure I don't make any mistakes. He says there's no sand or grass here, thank goodness. But yeah, survival mode. So to see him having that positive of a day, despite that, you know, kind of concern to quote, is a really cool thing to see.
See him nearly hitting the wall, in fact, coming back down the straightaway. Separations building and fast. Go ahead.
No, good. Finish your thought. I'm sorry. I'm going to change topics.
I was about to say lap traffic is about to become a major topic point to switch towards those gears, because Dinkel, while he has a 5-second lead, has to deal with drivers who are a minute and 22 seconds off the tempo soon. We've seen how difficult it is just to pass a lead lap car. How do you do it with a lap car, especially if you're in groupings like this one we're seeing soon?
That's funny. That's your transition. That's where I was going to go too, because I talked to Trent pre-race, and this was his concern. This was his only concern he really mentioned to me, was hoping that lap cars do not dictate this race. In other words, hoping they're either going to get out of the way, or it's easy to get by them, or that they just don't wreck in front of him. This was Trent Diegel's biggest concern coming into the race tonight. And it's interesting because some of these guys are still racing for position ahead of him, right? So they're wanting to race each other. They don't want to give up a spot, but also that kind of racing courtesy tells you that you're kind of supposed to give up that spot.
And here's the major thing to consider. With the cars we're keeping an eye on, 12th on back, they're running in the 128s to 129s. Dinkel is still running just a 10th off his personal best lap time so far. He is a second quicker than the rest of the field here in the mid-run.
And the other problem that you have with lap cars in a series like this, Justin, is the behavior that a lap car is supposed to have. You and I both done enough road course racing to know that in road course racing, you know, IMSA or whatever you have, the theory is the lap car holds your line and you make the other guy get around you. The slower car holds their line and you make the other person pass you clean. What happens in NASCAR, unfortunately, is a lot of people want to try to let the leader by. They want to pull over, they want to slow down, they want to get out of the way, and sometimes you end up putting yourself in the way when you make movements like that. Maybe you switch a lane the last second, or you brake too soon, or it's just not obvious, and that's what leads to accidents on road courses sometimes.
Some cars now moving over to the right side of the racetrack here. Trying to follow the natural line, a little bit of a squeeze there. That was the 05 car. Tom MSC trying to let drivers go.
And that's, it's almost like he's listening to me, Justin. That's exactly what happens when you try to let someone go, is you make tight moments like that, And that's Trent Dinkel's biggest nightmare.
Already looking a little bit racy now. In turn, let's follow on board with Robert Bisson Jr. as he scrapes the wall. Now keep in mind, there is an incident limit in this series. 13 incident points you get a drive through. This is a possibility with how many walls you get into here to get 2x, no 1x's. Luke Christian's got the most so far with 6 incident points in the first 11 laps.
And so at this point, what he has to do is one of two things. Either become real conservative and possibly, have to learn how to drive different at this point in the race, or we're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it and then hope for the best as far as not getting that incident limit.
So meatball flags should be expected here. It's worth noting already we've had at least 5 cars deal with meatball flags. One active currently is Gallahan, who was up in the 9th position before starting off this lap. Medina, though, making Acosta, should say, looking to get a little bit feisty again. About midway through the estimated run, drivers in rear-world action pitting around lap 23-ish. Before the window opened, Callahan comes in for the mandatory repair.
And that comes back to the question we saw earlier. Does anyone want to do the undercut? So I guess I should stop and say, what's an undercut? That's what you're probably asking if you do the road course racing. An undercut basically means you're going to pit, I guess in this case, before everybody else. You're hoping to come out in clean air and make up some lap time. So if you're in this 4-car line, maybe you're the last guy in line, but that clean air after you pit, Justin, will help you feel better. You feel like you're not having to brake at someone's braking points. And maybe when the pit cycle is done, you've come out ahead of them because you did something different.
The retirement is in Luke Christian after having another tow in turn 6. Here comes the chance for Acosta, though. This is one of the best chances on the track. South Columbus Drive, hard braking send. No send to the tire barrier. Move Acosta up to the top 10.
Yeah, what a great job for Jose Acosta here on this. As you said, one of the tightest corners. This is the tightest part right here. I suspect we'll never see a pass here unless someone just misses a corner. That 2-lane road is just not a safe passing point.
Yeah, especially with how tight the speeds are. I'm going to put this into perspective. Derek, have you ever driven in a pace car before?
No, but I feel like that on the freeway sometimes.
Okay. Have you ever tried to turn at 65 miles an hour on a tight bend?
I know it's difficult. It's very, very difficult.
There's a lot of momentum swing in that. And someone who just rode in a pace car with, let's just say, very intriguing safety secureness, you are holding on for dear life at just 60 miles an hour in that same type of corner radius in East Congress Plaza Drive today.
Yeah, and one of the things we don't think about with road course racing as well, JP, is typically you're either using your pedals or you're turning. You're not supposed to do both. That using both is what gets you in trouble, gets you into a wall or spun around. So when these guys are turning, they're already off the pedals. They should be at correct pace. You start playing with the gas pedal and the wheel at the same time, and you're in for a world of hurt here.
Walter Walden looking to try and find a little speed. Some of the air battles on track worth noting starting to compress. Acosta and Daniels hearing has started to compress. As drivers start to navigate lots of traffic in this near future. Drivers like Walden, Gamble starting to break away, as to be expected, though, with the trends of the racetrack when it comes to road course racing. Once you reach this mid to long run, it really separates usually to where you have those mini packs of similar speed.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I was looking over at timing and scoring, and I was like, man, it felt like just a couple of laps ago you were making a comment about how we're all still stuck together, and now we're 7.5 seconds to second. We're 11, 12, 19 seconds between third and fourth back to the leader. So that separation has started now, and now we're going to kind of see who's comfortable on a road course and who's here just to have a good points day and maybe survive and not use this as your drop week.
Once again, kind of hard to do that this season with all the road courses, though, because pick your poison. Which road course do you like the most? Which ones do you like the least? That's not an easy choice.
No, I mean, we started at Sonoma, which You know, I said maybe the second hardest road course here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's third, because I think Sonoma is incredibly difficult with all the elevation changes. Then, you know, we have this. In the Indy road course, it has, of course, the weird corners in the infield and has the different tight corners with the, you know, the curbs and whatnot we all talk about. I mean, obviously, in my opinion, and maybe you disagree, the championship race at Watkins Glen is by far the easiest of the 4 road courses on the schedule.
It is a track you can get into rhythm quickly, we'll say. In Chicago, you can argue once you get into a rhythm that can fall in the same category. The most tricky part, though, is Watkins Glen has those defined send areas or passing zones and danger zones. Chicago, again, these streets are becoming a learning experience. Drivers are learning on the fly even tonight. And you don't have that same data set like you do for every other circuit on the schedule.
No, I agree with that. You know, the other difficult part of Chicago as well, and maybe at some point we do an onboard throughout the night, I think it's hard to tell from these camera shots right here, JP. This is a bumpy track. This is not smooth. These are the streets of Chicago. This is not a newly paved Watkins Glen or a newly paved Daytona or, you know, whatever track you can come up with to fit that last line. This is a bumpy surface. There is no such thing as an easy road or an easy ride around a lap here.
And a great point was brought up by Shane Van Gisbergen earlier today as we still keep an eye on this battle. Some of the sections of the track as well are different types of pavement. Like this section is normal asphalt that you have on a typical street. You have the holes and covers and it getting welded shut, for example. But then you get to the bridge. This is concrete. You go back to asphalt, you have multiple transitions of surface levels here that you have to think about that have different types of grip on the track.
Not only that, but of course over that bridge, it changes as well when you come down from the bridge. So not even an elevation change to worry about, but then you have those different surfaces to worry about as well. That's a very valid point. This is a very unique track. I really am in love with it. I have to tell you, like, I know there was a lot of doubt and cynicism going into this event. From what I've seen on Twitter so far, I think a lot of it, or some of it at least, has changed. I've been having fun. Of course, the real life race has that benefit. The wet track, which as NASCAR fans we're still new to and kind of in love with. But I think it's produced way better racing than what anyone could have imagined. Here's a great onboard, by the way. This is with what the 89 car, pardon me.
The Firestorm Motorsport cars on board with.
Look how much that car rocks up and down, Justin.
You also have to fight with the potential of some wheel hop, too, with how much you have to slow the car down. So you see that run towards the Xfinity 10G section.
Watching that battle in front of him as well. Those guys are all over each other, Justin. I actually thought he was going to try to make the pass on the right there through the 2-lane section. I was about to get really excited.
That is not an easy place to go side by side. This is an area that's been a tight one too. East Jackson Drive. No send up yet. It looks like he wants to go. The problem is getting enough of a run to go without licking the stamp and sending it a la Anthony Alfredo style. And for those wondering, that's for 2021 NASCAR reference.
Yeah, yes, it is. I was very, very aware with that reference, but yeah.
So, to put it lightly, you miss the corner, you get Tom's heartburn turn type of incident for reference here.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's unique about this course, and there's very few others. And street courses have this, you know, whether it be the Detroit street course you talked about, or the one in Nashville that's been used a couple times now, or this one, is there's no runoff here. Like, it's not Watkins Glen turn 1, or it's not turns 10 and 11 at Watkins Glen where you can kind of overshoot it and kind of get it corrected. If you overshoot something here, I can't think of a single corner where you could overshoot here and not have a very difficult time not ending your race.
Still quickly approaching halfway pretty soon here. Lap 18. The lead, for curiosity's sake, is up to 10 seconds, nearly 11. And I think it's important to mention how stunning the run up in the front is with Dinkle. He's running basically what you'd expect from a world championship driver. Not a lot of fall off sometimes with these cars once you get used to it. Dinkle is in the 126s still. It's lap 18.
That's impressive.
Everybody else here is in the 128s and 29s.
There's a couple 127s, but you're right. Or actually, there's not anymore. That's last time. But what that comes from is comfort in the car and comfort of road course racing. And what it probably most comes from is it means he's not using as much brake in the corners. That sounds wrong, right? It means he's setting up the corners, he's using the apexes, he's lifting maybe a little earlier than these guys. If you start really smashing these brakes to make a corner happen, you'll burn up these tires, and then you will run 128s, 129s, or whatever have you, versus Trent Dinkle, who's still in the 126s.
Intriguingly enough, too, what conversations brought up part is when you think about parts of this racetrack, going back to the layout and structure of it, you rarely have a track where you have one side of the road having one section of the racetrack, then you go back towards that section and then have to turn basically perpendicular just about to it. It's rare to see that these days, unless you're drawing a track basically on a piece of paper and saying, this is my dream track, let's go figure eighting. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I was thinking the closest one I could think of, and maybe you have a better reference that I can't put in my head at the moment, is the entrance and exit to the road or to the infield for Daytona, right? We've seen in iRacing, there used to be I guess you call it a feature if you want to, where coming out of the road course onto the oval, there would always be a local yellow because there would be the drivers entering the road course on the opposite side of that wall. I can't think of too many other instances where you have that kind of feature.
Some lap traffic moving to the side of this battle. For the time being, once again, that's Jeff Chandler in that situation. But, yeah. And of course, keep in mind, that wall needs to hold up very significantly with how difficult this track is, especially since there's a corner at the other side of that tire barrier. It's been tested in real life today. No one really has tested its sturdiness in iRacing yet today, surprisingly.
No, we've seen a couple small hits. I mean, Abner Acosta's had the hardest hit so far, which is, interesting because Abner's the one who told me that he didn't think what he learned in the Xfinity race on Wednesday was going to be of any value to him today. And of course, I think the difference in performance is showing that. This has been a great race overall. I know we've been talking about a lot of the kind of the backstory and whatnot, but man, we're seeing this great battle here with the 77. He's all over this back bumper and trying to make the move, and I think he's going to get it. Oh, hold on.
Still keeping the pressure, still nowhere to go.
So it's almost as if the 77 at this point is content to, I guess, make the car in front of him nervous, right? Instead of being aggressive, instead of making the pass, I guess what you're hoping for is you put the pressure on the driver in front of you, and maybe they make the mistake and you get by cleanly.
It's happened to rear-wheel drivers. It happened a lot in this series for a reason.
And also, for Abner, I gotta say, for the amount of damage he had, or has, I should say, how impressed I am that it's 5th place. I mean, that's, if you're Abner and you're upset about the damage, that's fine, I get it. But it's sort of like a first world problem, Justin. You have damage on the car and you're still 5th place. That's a real tough night, so to speak.
I mean, these next-gen cars, you can argue, depending on how hard you hit it, can hold up like tanks for a reason. Now, we're approaching the pit window. We're on lap 21, coming up to lap 22. This upcoming time by here for some of these drivers. Now, it becomes the question, how do drivers handle this pit lane on entry and exit? We've seen how tight the entry is. Here's the major thing. The exit, there's not really any room to pull on the track. You're jumping back into the racing line.
There's
not braking.
There's not a whole lot of space on the entrance either, Justin. I mean, we saw, I don't want to reference the real life race too much in case people want to watch it later, but at this spot right here, we saw Jenson Button almost have a big accident in their early laps of the Cup race today because of how tight that is to get down on pit road. It's like maybe he didn't communicate the pit well, or maybe he'd have a hard time getting in there. But if you don't make your pitting very, very obvious to your opponents here in this race, it's going to be difficult at best to get on pit road safely and not get run over.
I think we need to keep an eye on someone with the exit because it's pretty important to mention that one of the comparables you have is Long Beach. where it's similar to that on the pit exit, where you're basically exiting to the near the braking zone or just around that braking zone, then taking a hard lap back onto the racetrack, basically.
Yeah.
However, noticing around some of the screenshots and viewpoints of the track, it's a little bit earlier, that point of the cone where you have to turn.
The other reference point that come to mind for me, Justin, was Sebring, where you have that pit road on the side. You kind of come there through the big sweeping first corner. But yeah, your reference is right. But Sebring also comes to mind when I think about that.
Patrick Calgio now out of the race. Issues with paddle shifters. It's been an issue that he talked about with you, actually, Derek, that had been hampering Calgio entering the night.
Yeah, and of course, this is not the track by any means. Not even to have happen in any track. But this is not the track where you want to have problems getting your car up and out of gear. This is just too tight of a road course to stick it in one gear and be happy all night long.
More traffic to deal with to the left side of the racetrack, being cordial here in this battle. Again, been keeping an eye on 5th and 6th. They've been keeping close. Eric Haig, by the way, starting to lose a bit of touch to them. He's been keeping within a same 10th of a second bracket. Daniels and Acosta have fallen off significantly, at least 2 to 7 tenths between them per lap. I'm going to ask a serious question here.
All right.
With how something's gone, some of these laps have gone for Dinko and Clean Space, who just now hit a 127 for the first time. Do you even think of changing tires? The reason I asked that, it was fuel strategy that won the NASCAR Coke race just about a week ago.
So, yes, I would. And the reason I say yes to you is you made an amazing point. Trent Dinkel now has a 14.1 second lead as I look over in timing and scoring over Maverick Davis and even further back in the rest of the field. At this point, if I'm Abner Acosta, if I'm Josh Daniels, if I'm Eric Haig, I want to win the race, but I've given up on that right now. I need to worry about beating these guys and finishing as well as I can. So would I take tires? Yes, I would. I think tires are important here, but that will become a question on pit road as we come into pit stops here in the next few laps. I respect the question, but my answer is always yes. As a driver, I want tires.
I mean, the only reason I asked that is the times Dinko is putting up is retrospectively compared to what you expect in a GT3 and open wheel car, where the more laps you put in, the faster it goes with the fuel burn in some circumstances. He's doing that with a Cup car. I don't know if I've ever seen that before in my life.
No, that's pretty impressive. By the way, look at the inside rotors of these wheels here. That was, I think, we're following along here with Josh Daniels. He saw him go through a corner a second ago. Look how much these light up. Look at that. Do you think they're not on the brakes? Oof, that's hot.
Still losing a bit of ground now as this run continues to go. Now, for those curious, we're already down to 13 cars on the lead lap. 5 retirements. Calgio, McDonald, Christian Johnson, and Pruitt all out with mandatory repairs. At least 5 drivers in total have had meatball flags so far today. It's been tricky to stay on the lead lap, let alone match the top 5's pace today.
And I don't think we mentioned it, or if we did, it kind of went over my head, and I apologize, but it looks like the 31 of Jeff Chandler, it's already an incident trouble, because it looks like he already served a drive-through for incident points, because he was down pit road a few laps ago and did not stop in his box. That must be a drive-through penalty.
Oh, here comes the run. Daniels now finally opening up the room. Peeling off Acosta from the right side of the track. Acosta lets him have it.
Now, here's the thing I was thinking about. I hadn't got around to mentioning yet, but I was going to in a lap or two. I was beginning to wonder, JP, if the 77 was content following Abner and burning less fuel so that when it comes down to pit stops here, he could have less of a stop on pit road than Abner and beating that way. But if that was a strategy, he's definitely aborted that and decided to get around to Abner here.
Here's another part of that strategy of the abortion. It is 17 seconds up the road to Pat Harvey. That's not strategy. That's panic. Get by if you want a chance at 4th.
That's true. So now we're going to find out what Josh Daniels has in this car. Does he think he was so much faster than Abner? And right now he's opened a bit of a gap here. So maybe that's the case. And maybe he thinks he can make up some time by not just riding here.
And Acosta dealing with significant damage. For those who tuned in, he had a huge slide through turn 1. It slammed the outside wall, up for the top 5 at one point, going onto East Balboa Drive. He's been able to still hold that very wounded race car in the top 6 as we get ready for pit stops. Already on lap 25, about 44 minutes estimated to go.
Yeah, we've not seen too many pit stops or at least any scheduled pit stops yet. So we're gonna wait and see when those begin. See who wants to stay out all the way and who wants to pit it early. But I mean, look at that. As you said, look at that damage on Abner Acosta, Justin. He is such a talented driver. Like, there are many drivers who would be way further back in the field than him. I have so much respect for Abner for wheeling that car like that with that much front end damage here on the road course.
Be more so curious on the steering handling of this Mark with how things are playing out. You just see how it's handling some of the bumps. Pit window is open, by the way. Papineau just completing service moments ago in the 37 car. He is a lap down, however, so expecting lots more pit stops fairly soon, especially if you want to get to halfway, you have to get about lap 28 if you want to split the race up the middle.
Yeah, and right now, of course, that's the question in your head. You're thinking, man, these tires are awful. I want new tires. These tires are junk, or whatever words you're using in your head. But then you're like, you know what? If I pit right now, at the end of the race, it's going to feel even worse. So you're kind of having like your own little negotiation in your head of like, how far can I go? It's like when you go for a jog or you get on the treadmill or the elliptical and you start to play those little mind games. How much further can I go with myself before I just give in? And that's what battle these drivers are fighting right now.
No give in as they get ready to reach some of the lap traffic. No flags waving for the left side of the racetrack, right side maneuver. Easily done. Tom Embassy also amongst those coming in this time. He's last running 5 laps down. 2 laps away from the halfway mark of the race. Again, Trent Dinkle 17 seconds up the road over Maverick Davis. And again, an impressive run, you have to say, even despite the interval. When it comes to Maverick Davis, I want to mention that 15 car. He's one of the Love Racing entries. Someone I haven't really seen too much of before. 2 top 10s to start the season, holding on to 2nd. His teammate in 5th. A 2-5 run is not bad for Love Racing. Derek.
Sorry, no, you're right. I was working on something in the background there. Oh, well, look at this. The 89 is now going to try to push and pressure Abner Acosta. Sorry, I was working on something in the background there. But, you know, that's very true. This is getting interesting here in this battle.
Daniel still being kept under pressure, but they have fought so long that they've now picked up Haig fully. Haig had been at least 5 car lanes back when the battle initialized here in this single file grouping. Now with all the lost time, has a chance to cost him fairly soon. Next time by, cross flags.
And let's see what's going to happen here. It looks like Abner got a little bit of separation from that car. Man, that had to be a tense lap right there.
Yeah, it's been a tense racetrack. It's a nervous racetrack, to say the very least, to drive around.
You know, what, and you're right. And what that reminds me of is there are other tracks on the circuit, I guess Long Beach or Watkins Glen even, where this is not, there's always someone around you, right? This isn't like Nürburgring or Spa or, I don't have another on my head I can think of, but it's not a racetrack where you can go a lap or two and not see anybody. There's no such thing as calm here. You're always around someone. There's always traffic. There's always someone to worry about here.
And that's part of the reason, too, we're keeping up with this is it hasn't calmed down for 20 laps straight. Eventually, something's going to give. We're at cross flags. Something has to give. Does anyone think of an undercut call is going to be a big question. We come out of East Jackson Drive through turn 12 from this 2.2 mile road course. Is there going to be a call? No. No undercut yet. They continue to push the fuel window.
And the longer they push the fuel window, it comes down to me in my head of that question you asked a few laps ago about, are we going to take tires? The longer you're pushing this fuel run means you're trying to put less fuel in the car on your pit stop, and probably means you're not taking tires. So your thoughts may have been more correct than mine in that matter.
Still following along in that harsh run up to East Roosevelt Road. Oh, and they continue to just scrape the walls down in that section. I'm surprised again how a lot of these drivers have been able to hold up in terms of keeping this car clean. Now that they've got the laps down, you can just see how much difficulty there is with how much that front valance, that front part of the car is squishing down.
Yeah, for sure. I want to mention to the viewers, if you're wondering where the rest of the field is, they're out there, and we're seeing them go by as we're watching this battle. The reason why we're focused here, as JP has said, is this is the battle. If we look up and down timing and scoring, and you can see it on the left side of your screen, there's no other battle even close to this on timing. Yes, there's people turning amazing laps. I mean, Trent Dinkle is still in the 126s, a 126.478 last time by. I am beyond impressed, for the record, and sincerely beyond impressed by that number. But you look up and down the battles and the relatives here, there's nothing else that even matches this as far as how tight they're racing. Everyone else is just kind of racing and hoping to catch someone. These guys are just, waiting for someone to make a mistake right here.
So Wayne Grassi, by the way, they were getting let on by to get around in that 7 machine. Just past the halfway point, 18.6 seconds and growing the gap. Dinkle over Davis. Bruno Mello up at the top 3. Harvey, Daniels, Acosta. Haig, Gandy, Acosta. Bisson Jr., your top 10.
And what's crazy about Trent Dinkle's 126 is just, it's with that 19-second gap he has, he could lay back. He could literally just kind of coast and probably still win this race, but apparently he's still pushing.
You know who's pushing to the pit lane? The 15, Maverick Davis. Pit window is open for the race leaders just past the halfway mark. Lap 30 is underway. Now it's the huge question. Does this mean the 77 of Daniels joins them? This is a Love Racing teammate, mind you, that's been running second all race.
Yeah, we'll wait and see here what's going to happen. They're going to come out of these corners here, not too far from the pit road entrance. If this is a team strategy or if just,
nope.
I guess not. Maverick, by the way, 15.5 seconds on pit road, JP. I didn't see the pit stop live. I wasn't watching. I was watching the battle, but that tells me probably tires were involved in that pit stop.
Probably indeed, in that sake. We'll see if he picks up the tempo with the different rubber on the car. But you just seen the emphasis, too, on that pit exit I was talking about, with it being a little earlier. How about a tire barrier to deal with instead of a runoff area like in Long Beach on that exit? You do not have any room to even zone out. No tires confirmed, and a crash for Acosta. There goes the cone, and there goes the car.
Oh, don't back up. Oh, my goodness.
Acosta is stuck as there goes Grassi going around on the left side. And
like
the 5 is stuck. Oh, here comes another car hard into the wall.
Watch it again here. He's going to get... So I thought at first he sent it in there, but there's actually a car in front of them that was slowed down, I think, JP, and that caused Daniels to back it up. Oh. And then that caused everything to kind of happen from there. I mean, that felt him backing up going forward. That was like the scene from Austin Powers in a really bad way right there, Justin.
John Jones also involved. Take a look. Abner Acosta.
The slow car here. Oh, and you know what happened? Coming back 30 minutes of conversation, Justin. I think that lapped car tried to get out of the way. It looked like he tried to pull to the inside of that corner. Now here's a pit stop. He tried to get out of the way, ended up putting himself more in the way. He should have just kept going and made those guys get around him.
That was Chad Kibbe in the 23 car, who was a lap down, the second to last, 1 lap down, and just like that, top runners, significant problems. Eric Haig, by the way, in this time. What do we say about track blockers? You just seen the perfect example.
That was my fear right there, and that was probably the closest I think we're gonna come all night to a potential yellow. It had Abner hit someone else right there by trying to back it up. That might have been the cause for the full course yellow that Charles Sumner and the admins were scared of. That was a tight moment and a scary moment right there for Abner Acosta to be turned around.
Mandatory repairs for both Callahan and Kibbe. Callahan was the car trying to avoid the incident as lap traffic, trying to avoid Costa in turn, see him in the wall. And just to confirm, race control has confirmed they were seconds away from throwing the caution. That's how bad that situation was.
Yeah, I mean, had there been more of a battle going on for spots, or just a herd of cars, or a gaggle of cars, if you will, at that moment, they would have been forced to. Like, that was scary as it was. Imagine there were 3, 4, or 5 more cars all coming through there. That would have been horrible.
Pat Harvey, by the way, is in. Charles Sumner in. Embassy again is in. And again, here's the thing I was mentioning just as calamity struck for the other Love Racing car. It is confirmed Maverick Davis, no tires. So a lot of drivers are saying, you know what? Speed's there. Why do I need rubber? Just give me gas.
You know, and the surprising part about that, if I'm honest with you, is that at a 15.5 seconds...
Harvey, he has broken the car into the wall.
Yeah, that was a hard hit. Sorry, I was watching the timing at the time, but I'm surprised. A 15.5 second stop of just gas. Man, that feels like a long time just to put fuel in the car for what's left here, JP.
A lot of 13, 12-second pit stops, usually the sign of that. Bisson Jr. in that category. You also throw a couple others like O'Brien in that mix. Trent Dingle, by the way, in the pit lane now, is getting service, so the race leader is in. No tires again is confirmed for Dingle. And who do you blame him? It's been like a GT3 car with how these drivers have been handling Chicago tonight.
And let's talk about the difference here real quick of first and second. Trent Dingle, Maverick Davis. Of course, right now, Bruno Mello is in the lead and will get credit for leading a lap most likely. But Dingle and Davis party will come back around to the lead. So here it is. Trent Dingle, 37.8 seconds on the box on the Delta, and then 12.9 seconds in the box. Davis, 40.6 second Delta and a 15.5 second stop. So that will only increase the lead that Trent Dingle had before the cycle began. Makes me wonder if Maverick Davis had some damage to fix, or I don't know what could have gone on there to cause that extra 2.5 seconds.
Yandy, by the way, is in the lane this time had been running up at the top 5 during the cycle. Top 10 much of the race. And Eric Haig, meatball flag, mandatory damage, 89 car now. Everybody getting meatball flags today, like it's candy.
Yeah, you know what? In all the conversations you and I've had with drivers, JP, this week, I think the one common word we keep hearing is survival. Survival, whatever version of that word you want to use. And now we're seeing why. Now we're seeing why this race is so hard. It's just like doing a 24-hour race. You know, when I work with my team for 24 hours at Spa or Nürburgring or anything, Daytona, we talk about how important it is to have a clean race car. Clean race cars win races, not fast race cars. Typically, those are not always the same thing. A clean race car typically performs pretty darn well.
Pit window closed this time. Bruno Mello has completed scheduled service, so just about everybody now has pit once, except for Acosta. And the car that may not just scraped a wall there, you heard of the backdrop. Wall to wall, and you also had to take service, should say. Landon Mills is off cycle, and there's another slide to the backdrop. That's John Jones.
Sorry to cut you off. I apologize, but I'm surprised. I'm wondering if timing and scoring missed something. After Abner's 2 spins here, I'm hard-pressed to believe he hasn't pitted. I'm not saying that, you know, I don't know. That surprises me. I would have thought he would have come in after those 2 incidents by now, but I guess not.
Landon Mills having some issues, has just dropped harshly down the pylon, was in the heart of a pack. Wayne Gracie has also come in this time. And I will say this, the team owner's Ty Stover saying he felt he was confident that he'd be running with Dingle right now if it wasn't for all this damage. Agree or disagree?
I don't know. I'm going to kind of disagree. I mean, that's hard to say. That's a weird hypothetical. Running with Dingle, I don't think so. Maybe running second or third, maybe. Running with Dingle, Dingle's in a whole other planet right now. It's hard to believe anyone's running with Dingle.
I mean, Acosta's been on an airplane in some road courses in the past.
No, I agree with that, and you're right. He has shown great prowess on road courses, but these 126s that Dinkel's putting down, listen, if the man didn't take tires, so that's what, 34 laps or so. Well,
and Dinkel just set a personal best of the race as Acosta comes in.
Finally for Acosta. But yeah, man, I don't know if anyone could. I mean, I've all nothing but respect for Abner Acosta. He's an incredible racer on both road and oval, but I don't think so. No disrespect, but I think Dinkel's just off on his own right now.
So, last of the main leaders coming down for the pit lane. Charles Sumner, by the way, also now out of the race. Likely soon with mandatory damage, the 98. It is building up. Also, Wayne Grassi is now backwards in turn 6 currently. South Columbus Drive. Acosta, no tires, quick service. Very quick service, in fact.
Obviously, he's decided what damage he has is what he has, but a very quick stop there. 12.2. That's going to be one of the fastest we've seen anybody do today, I think.
Indeed. For those curious, the purple lap of the race is actually held by 14th place Landon Mills, a 125.9. You have to wonder what if in the Landon Mills, because when it comes to Landon Mills, he might have been a contender for the win too with what he showcased and his background, where they're trying to build him up to make a pro run.
Now, Landon Mills, of course, having that run where he's trying to get into the Pro Series. He had a long repair. Unfortunately, that damage is going to harm him. But yeah, another great lap there. 125. That's just unthinkable around this course. I couldn't imagine turning a 125 here. That's a great lap.
Now's the perfect time to check in on our leader, because guess who's next in the line behind Acosta? The race leader. That's Trent Dinkel in the 9 car. His blue light glasses shining the way in his blue race car, putting on speeds that you do not expect whatsoever when it comes to a Cup car. I'm serious. This is the NASCAR Coca-Cola stuff.
Oh no, it's incredible. Yeah, I've almost run out of words to describe how impressed I am. You know me enough to know that I'm not short on words usually, but watch this here now. Here's maybe his biggest nightmare is lap traffic. Now we're having Abner Acosta, who's had a couple incidents already. And so you hold your breath if you're Trent Dinkel as he's gotten around him. But until he get around someone who's had multiple incidents in a single night, you hold your breath and you hope for the best here at this tight street course.
Remember how we talked about the fastest lap, by the way? Guess who took it away? The only driver now in the 125s. Trent Dinkel has, in the past 2 laps, ran the fastest lap, a 125.955. And the third fastest lap of the race, a 125.977 since the pit stop.
That's crazy. That's stuff I expect on new tires, like F1 style. You come out with a couple laps to go in a race and you come out and just take that point for the fastest lap. But for just putting, all gas in the car, wow. So he's going to come through this tight corner here. And listen to the throttle input, by the way, JP. And I want to sit back and just listen to a lap here. But listen to how gentle he is with the throttle.
So Trent Dinkel, you can just hear again how very careful it is on the throttle. Now it's a 26-second lead. He's grown the gap 4 seconds since the pit stop.
That's just that throttle control he has just is incredible. That patience you have, that's why he's having those great laps and consistent laps. He's so patient on that throttle that he's conserving tires, he's conserving everything in his car. And I'm sure if we listen to someone back, no disrespect to someone in 10th, 11th, 12th, whether it be a James O'Brien, a Waldo Walden, someone back there, I'm guessing at times the throttle control is not the same.
Yeah, to say the very least. By the way, 6 cars are on the lead lap. At the rate he's going, we might be lucky to have 3.
I was going to say, by the way, we're so in sync tonight. It's kind of weird. I was going to go somewhere different, but close. 26 seconds now, by the way, Justin. 26 seconds to Maverick Davis here. And we still have, 16 laps to go in this race. That is bigger already than the gap that Abner Acosta won by on Wednesday. And I thought that was crushing the field. And Trent Dinkel said, hold my beer. And let me show you how it's done.
You can already see just some of the battling started to go on. By the way, Jose has now passed Abner on the track. So Jose is outrunning his family member.
And maybe that family rivalry right there will get to you, by the way. If you're already Abner Acosta, you're already having a rough night. You're probably kind of frustrated, which I'll talk about the mental effect of that in a second. And now you have a family member passing you? That's got to be worse, Justin. So,
I think Abner's going to be happy. I think Jose's going to be happy regardless, as Lonnie can say, your coaching have finally helped. We'll see if he got the coaching later.
Yeah, that's very true. Now I want to talk about Abner Acosta for a second, JP, and the mental effects of what he could be going through right now. When you're a driver and you have a rough night, you've hit a wall or 2 walls or a car, or you're having some slow laps, that can eat at your mental state. That can really get you frustrated. It can get you mad at yourself. You can lose your focus. You become more of a negative thinker than a positive thinker. And those are not things conducive to positive results or better lap times in iRacing. It takes a real talented driver to kind of brush it off, to just let it go and say, okay, you know what? This is where I am for the night. Find small victories, a better lap time. Maybe I'm racing as a family member and having fun or whatever. Or those negative results and negative thoughts lead to more negative results and more negative thoughts.
You don't want to have that spiral.
No, and I think it's fair to say, no disrespect to you. Hold on.
Jose Acosta, hard in the wall.
Family tradition, apparently, right there.
This time it's down onto South Lake Shore Drive, up to the coastline. I think he got away with it, but...
So look how durable that car is. You talked about that earlier being like tanks, that he just kept moving like nothing happened.
Let's take another look. Break it down.
This probably too hard to gas, probably missed his braking point. And he probably knew it was coming. And there's just nothing you can do. Oh, look at this now. What's going on here?
Did wiggle. He break the tie rod?
I don't know. Maybe. I thought I heard the car turn off for a second. Am I hearing things, or that what you're hearing as well?
There is a confirmation it's no meatball. So whatever he's feeling is not mandatory, but might be a lot of optional to where the chassis is.
Okay, I guess from that corner, it sounds like the engine's on. I thought for a couple of seconds I heard him turn the engine off in those corners. I don't know.
It looks like Jose is going to try and tough it out here with that. Now to the left side, you can see how he's trying to wiggle the car, figure out what's going on with the steering.
I'm going to challenge that thought with all respect, JP. I don't think he's trying to wiggle the car. I think the car has decided it wants to wiggle, and he's maybe along for the ride. I'm not sure yet.
So either way, Jose Acosta has lost a ton of time now to Abner. Robert Bisson Jr. is currently decent bit back, 5 seconds behind, and rapidly coming up to this 42.
Yeah, rapidly coming up, and you know, every time you see him wiggle, you go, oh, I have an opening, and maybe it makes you press a little harder, but I wonder if that's when he gets on the gas pedal that car's wiggling like that, because it seems to be these big straights where he wiggles right here or at the start-finish line. Not so much right here that I can tell from that camera shot. Let's watch it again here. Maybe a little, but not too much.
Not as bad as before, but
that car's wiggling so much. I don't see the benefit from a driver's standpoint of wiggling the car that hard all the time. I don't think it's his choice.
So that gap is closing in quickly. You know who has been able to stay up in the top 3 this entire race, though? How about Bruno Mello for Love Racing? It's his first start of the season. 0 points so far coming into today. And he has been consistently running this car up in the top 3. It's been a great day for Love Racing. A 2-3 on track now. A 2-3-5.
Yeah, and realistically, not that far off of Maverick Davis, his teammate. I mean, they are, 1.3 seconds apart here at the line. So for someone who's having their first race of the season and has picked this course to be your debut, oh, hold on, there's a car in the wall there. This is a good run for you.
No engine issues going on with the 42, but Mello, nice and calm. He is just about up to his teammate, though. It's been a while to get here. Bruno Mello has reeled in Maverick.
And watch his hands here. For the most part, minus a couple corners, look how calm he looks. And not just in his face. That's an easy one to see. But when you see a driver who's having a hard night and the race car's not performing the way you want it to, you'll see a lot of seesaws in those wheels, a lot of fighting. It's almost like you're arm wrestling a bear, right? But most of these corners look pretty darn smooth. Watch this here. Just going to turn it. And you know what? Is that a round wheel, Justin?
Yeah, that looks like a round. That is round, yes.
Well, from the bottom, I thought I saw it wasn't round on the bottom. I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
When you think about it, there's stock car stock. Oh my goodness, who was that who has just disappeared? That was Chad Kibbe right in the pathway of Maverick Davis, who just towed before Davis got there.
That's oof. That might have been Kibbe's end of his race. That I won't say. We'll get word in a second. That might have been his incident limit.
Meatball flag, second time this race for Kibbe there, by the way. But man, that closed up the gap a touch bit. I don't think Maverick Davis even knew what was going to happen there.
Yeah, okay, so we're right. We're being confirmed that was not his incident limit, so I apologize for speculating, but I thought so. Maybe it's his second incident. We're being told Medina is leading with the 8 incident points here, so not a lot of incident points. I mean, realistically, you can scrub a wall here, but with no off tracks, as you said earlier, it's hard to get incident points here unless you're hitting someone. And these cars are so spread out that it's almost hard to hit someone.
Still coming up to 11 to go, taken now by the race leader at the stripe. As well, Tristan Callahan hearing has mandatory damage repair as well. So far, 8 cars out of the race. Charles Sumner, Eric Papineau, Chad Kibbe amongst those who have had to come down multiple times for mandatory repair damages. Chandler has 2 laps down as well. He's had to come down for a bit. Medina at one point took a bathroom break during the run and then peeled back out on the racetrack. Allegedly. But still.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a comment. I was trying to come up with a joke or a comment or a pun, but I got nothing.
So, how would you grade how these drivers fared out in Chicago today?
Overall, fairly well, right? And I can't remember if I said this earlier. I think I did, but I'm really proud of them because, you know, yeah, there's been official racing this week in iRacing, and I'm sure some of these guys have hosted practice or done some practice, but when you could not watch, I'm sure some of these guys were excited to tune into the race today on NBC and watch how these people drove and what lines they took and what fun. And when when the race conditions weren't even close to what we're going to see in sim, it kind of kills that for you, and it kind of maybe kills some of that ideas you had. I'm overall really impressed. There's a lot of tight corners, and we've seen the Acostas hit some walls. We've seen Chad Kibbe have a couple incidents, but overall, I'm impressed by everybody here. I mean, I'm obviously the most impressed by Trent Dinkle, but I think it's been a good race, a very clean race. There shouldn't really be too many upset drivers coming out of this. By the way, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to say what happened, but I'm going to say it'd be worth your while to go back and watch the end of the NASCAR race after this broadcast. It's an exciting finish. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Trent Dinkle looking to make history as the first PRL winner on the Chicago Street Circuit in the Cup Series here tonight. 10 laps to go. Take a look at Dinkle. The lead is up to 30 seconds. It's about a third of the track over Maverick Davis and Bruno Mello. He's lapped Josh Daniels. He is right now slowing down a bit. He might not actually get up to Pat Harvey by the checkered.
I was just checking it as you said that. Pat Harvey right now is almost a minute 11 behind. We're seeing minute 25 lap times, and he is about roughly a second to half a second faster than Harvey lap by lap. So unless Harvey slips up somewhere, I think Harvey will get credit for a lead lap finish. I'm not sure yet. There's just not enough laps left, I don't think, to close that gap.
Again, somebody eventually is going to be knocking on Dinkle's door if he did all this building himself. He hits the wall there. That's been his only major mistake of the day. But, I mean, this car has the speed based on what we've seen to basically run in the Coke race. Now, keep in mind, we heard afterwards, after the race, through Robbie Zelensky, that it was a fixed race for eNASCAR this past round. If it was open, guess who would probably with a good setup there if he was in the Coke field?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys, but I mean, you know, of course, road courses, you always want to see Bobby Zelensky would be up there and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's surprising that, you know, eNASCAR has taken this approach of doing a couple of fixed races this season to help level the playing field. Ooh, a little loose there. It looked like you see that, I don't know if you saw that car wiggle a little bit, but it got a little sideways out of that corner.
But again, remember, a lot of the drivers having a lot of experience here because part of the journey, as we talked about for eNASCAR drivers, is now once you reach Coke level, on top of that, you're actually part of the process of the virtual side of the track side, like the Coliseum, like Chicago. The Pro Invitational banners you've been seeing around was where the rear-wheel drivers got the virtual testing of this about 2 years before it happened. It was the question of not if it would ever happen, it was the matter of when. Just so happened to be 2023.
And remember, technically, I'm sorry.
So it's been years of building with those drivers to get this track right, down to the pixel.
Yeah, I was going to say, and remember, the eNASCAR race that happened on Tuesday, as we're doing this live, was not technically the first eNASCAR race at that track. They did one back in, December or January, where the winner got the tickets to go see the race this weekend. I think that was Steven Wilson, if I remember right.
And not only that, the All-Star race was in 2022 here.
Right, so we've seen this track run a few times, so that gives teams the chance to really learn here. But I want to focus on a different topic for a second, by the way, Justin. Coming into this event, when you did the points when we started the broadcast, let me read off the top 5 in points to you coming into this race. Trent Dinkle, Abner Acosta, Jose Acosta, Landon Mills, and Chris Hudson. That's the top 5 in points coming into this race. As you look at your top 5, only one of those is in the top 5, and that's your leader, Trent Dinkle. There could be a massive point shakeup after this race is over.
Big chance for the gap to grow a little bit as we still keep an eye on lap traffic. Dinkle the leader in the points, yes. But Acosta currently running 7th. Jose Acosta's in 8th. Landon Mills is currently laps down in 14th. Chris Hudson did not start today's race. A chance without the drop factored in for Harvey to move up a spot in the standings, with Harvey running up in the top 4.
Yep, and I'll finish it out there. So you had Pat Harvey in 6th. Talked about Maverick Davis was in 7th. He's currently running 2nd. That'd be a good day. James O'Brien was in 8th coming in. Robert Peasaw Jr. was in 9th. And Tristan Callahan was in 10th. So as you look through your top 10 here and you see some of those names there or not there, Maverick Davis could come out of this with a good jump in the points here. He was, I'm trying to figure out real quick on mental math, 71 points. He was 22 points behind Dinkel and 20 points behind Abner Acosta coming into this. He'll make up a good number of points here if all finishes this way.
I think Love Racing is going to make up a ton of points on private label team hype as a whole. You have 3 other drivers running in the top 5, basically. That's a dream if you were that organization, because it's been hard to match up to the 90 points around from private label team hype. Today, it's been a little bit easier, to say the least, with how they've done. Skip Gandy, by the way, has had an issue. He's dropping down the pylon. He's lost 2 spots now to Daniels and Acosta all of a sudden.
And that's surprising to see. I was just about to talk about Daniels and how well he's done tonight. He came into this race 13th in points and currently runs 5th on the ticker board in your left-hand side. That could also be a good points night for him.
Yeah. Lots of smoke and lots of traffic now. Well, this factored in. Davis having to dodge a little bit as the car moves to the outside of the racetrack. Coming up to 5 laps to go this upcoming time by for the leader. These drivers about nearly half a track back of your current race leader.
And the reason why this night is so important for these drivers, in my opinion, Justin, is it's only week 3. Yeah, obviously there's more races left, and with some of the tracks that are left on the schedule here, you don't want this to be your drop week if you can help it. There's still some tough visits on this schedule left. You don't want to have to plan out where your drop week is. Of course, everyone gets 1 in PRL. You cannot drop the last week. So Watkins Glen, there's no drops there. So you count that in. So there's 9 races eligible for a drop. You don't want this to be your 1 if you can help it.
Well, technically, think about this drop week doesn't kick in really until week 5 when it comes to the metric. But you still have that pressure of if you miss a race, you lose that ability to use that drop round.
Yeah, so Chris Hudson,
who
for
lost
example.
that? Yes, exactly. We're making the exact same point.
It's like we work together often. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the schedule coming ahead a little bit here. I mean, next week to me is where I want to have my drop week. As you said, week 4, it's not technically in play yet, but it will be. Next week is Atlanta Motor Speedway and that oval. Round 5 is New Hampshire. 6 is Pocono. There's a tough track that you can have a hard time at. And maybe the toughest oval on the circuit for me, Justin, is round 7 at Richmond. There's a lot of drivers who are great oval drivers who struggle at Richmond.
Good point indeed. But now, with under 5 to go, everyone just about settled to where we expect things to play out here. Who in turn do you think needs a good next few races to make up for what happened tonight? And why?
I mean, sorry to do it to you. The easy answer is Chris Hudson, right? Like, that's the easy answer because they're not here. But besides that, I mean, both the Acostas, need to have a great race to make up what happened here because, they're going to finish likely in the top 10, but, outside of it, to me, though, the two that I think stick out the most, or the one that sticks out the most, is Landon Mills. Came in 4th, currently running 13th. He needs to have a great couple of weeks to make up for what happened here. Now, not to mention there's some drivers who had a rough time last week or already missed their race last week who need to make up that, and they've already burned their drop week before this race even started.
I was about to say, when you made that point, you're basically not even shooting a layup. You're basically dropping the basketball off a ladder into the hoop. From about 10 inches from the hoop.
Yeah. I mean, so looking down the list of standings here, we're watching some great racing happening here. Not to ignore that. I mean, look at the points right now. Lou Christian in 16th in points. Only scored 17 points week 1 at Sonoma. Scored 33 last week, and I'm looking for Lou in timing and scoring. 26. So they've probably already burned their drop week part of it. Talked like Elmer Fudd there for a second before it's not even happened. The drop week.
This might become the drop.
That's true. That 17 points might become valuable to you.
Harvey has really started to fall off, by the way, hearing when it comes to how things are playing out. So there is that chance that now they do indeed converge. We'll keep an eye on the time differential As we close up this race, more drivers waddling their way around to be able to... Oh, and near contact, and that's a lick of a stamp from the lap car. That was Callahan nearly having disaster.
Yeah, that was kind of a scary moment right there as we watched 78 get around there. Whew. You know, I want to finish the talk in the schedule. We have a couple laps left. To me, this schedule right here, this season of iRacing, specifically for the Cup Series, for the next-gen cars, this is the toughest schedule because there's 4 road courses. You know, there's no easy way to do it here. I mean, it's just difficult. It's tough. It's, whether it be in PRL or officials or what have you, this is tests you as a driver, not as an oval driver. It tests you as a driver who is patient and willing to stick out difficult races.
And the super speedway race of the round is not even a gimme. It's Atlanta Motor Speedway Super Speedway, which guess what? That is the most difficult. Oh boy, someone just locked it up hard and spun it around. That is Robert Bisson Jr. from 9th.
That's going to put him down a spot or 2, I think. We'll wait and see here.
Robert Bisson Jr. able to gather it back up. That could have been bad for that battle.
That could have been bad for that battle. Could have been bad for the race because had he blocked the track there or caused a big calamity, that would have probably ended the race. I would think we'd have to get confirmation from race control. Maybe we'd have had a green white checker. And boy, what? Oh,
in trouble. It's Bruno Mello who's now had an issue with 3 laps to go in the wall.
Man, that's difficult for Bruno. That breaks my heart to see that. He's had such a great night and avoided so many near incidents, and now to do that. But I think as long as that car stays on track, JP, he almost had it saved. I was going to say, with that gap he has to 4th with Pat Harvey, as long as the car is drivable and not meatballed, I think he'll be okay.
Just got word. It's meatballed.
That's tough, man.
Now,
here's it.
Yeah, I think you just had the same thought.
Here's it. Well, here's my thought. Maybe we're on the same brain path. Technically, according to iRacing, you can finish the race with a meatball and not serve a penalty. It's not a typical black flag. It's not a passing into yellow. It's not a speeding in pits. It's not whatever you can think of that I can't. He can finish this race with a meatball and be just fine. Is that car drivable? Is the question I have.
It'd be 2 to go. Right now he's having to deal with.
He has, what, 3 laps to serve it, right?
Yes, exactly. Gambill and Papineau also are in the same situation. They've both picked up mandatory damage this past lap. So it looks like it's holding on for now.
And now unfortunately, we come back to that mental side of the race for Bruno Mello, Justin. Now he's got to just go, okay, let me breathe. The car's still drivable. Let's find the positives here and not be frustrated that he made a silly mistake with 2.5 laps to go.
White flag is out. Final time around for the Chicago Street Course. Trent Dinkle has put on an absolute clinic today for private label Team Hype. How about 35 seconds up over Maverick Davis with 3/4 of a lap to go?
And that's incredible. And that's only going to secure his lead in the point standing, Justin. It's going to just make that lead even bigger because, as you said, and we look down the field here, the Acostas, who were right behind him, are not going to finish close to him. So he'll get a bigger point lead. He was already 2 points ahead coming into this. That'll increase by a good amount, I would think.
Lots of brake glow on that car. The tires, no tire change. Who needs tires after all? It is a road course, I guess. Trent Dinkle putting on lap times a second to 2 seconds quicker than the field much of the night.
Let's see what the lap. Go ahead.
For Trent Dinkle, there's master classes and then there's this. With one more corner to go, Trent Dinkle absolutely dominates to take the first ever Cup win in the PRL at the Chicago Street Course.
Look at that. So confident in the racing, JP. If you notice, he had the hands off the wheel, kind of doing the little handshake before he even got to the line. I'm a 2 hands on the wheel kind of guy, but great job by Trent Dinkle. Great performance.
That was absurd with how dominant that speed was today. Davis, Mello, and Harvey, the only other cars in the lead lap, He's hitting the wall. He's so focused on his last minute after race check.
I mean, I jokingly say this about Trent Dinkel. I have broad respect, but you know what? Listen, if you wreck the car in post race, they can't do an inspection on it. That's all I'm saying.
Imagine if you actually had to go to the tech shed in iRacing.
That'd be horrible. Listen, I'm going to tell you what, Justin. I think we should get together. Those tires in that car, we can put those up on the Facebook Marketplace. Probably still gently used, I would think, right? Those tires barely got a workout in this race, it looks like.
They could probably drive another 120 miles or something, the full course distance.
At least with him behind the wheel, not with me.
So, waiting on Harvey to cross the line fully for things to officialize. Believe the clock is just about run out for Harvey. Only 4 lead lap cars. And there it is, Harvey finalizing things. Only 1 air lap car yet to cross the stripe, and that should do it. So Trent Dinkel stuns the field in one of the most dominating finishes you may ever see in PRL competition in the Cup Series. 36 seconds. The interval at the checker flag for Trent Dinkel.
I feel pretty confident saying, at least for the PRL Cup Series, Justin, that may be a record. I don't know. But if it's not, it's got to be darn near close to a record in a Cup race here for any track to have a margin of victory that big. You're parking it at the start finish line. I'm going to burn it down, celebrate that victory.
It's time to burn it on down for Private Label Team Hype, his second victory this season. And he adds to what has been an electrifyingly very high ascension to PRL stardom in the past year and a half in this 9 car. As he burns it on down and uses all that rubber up. It's time to take a look at your unofficial race results. Dinkel holding off Maverick Davis and Bruno Mello by a very tight margin of 36 seconds. Then it's Pat Harvey in 4th. A lap down today, Josh Daniels, Abdo Acosta, Skip Gandy, Jose Acosta, Esau Jr., and James O'Brien. You also have 2 laps down today, Landon Mills from the pole. Walter Walden, John Jones, Robert Gambill, also 2 down. Callahan, Chandler, 3 down. Medina, 5 down, with Kibbe, 8 laps down. Papineau and Sumner, 10 laps down. Then, Eric Haig does not finish the race, along with Grassi, along with MSC, along with Cal Gill, McDonald, Christian, Johnson, Pruitt, all out of the race. That's a look top to bottom in what was a show in which Trent Dinkel ran away, and ran away quick after troubles for the pole sitter. No post-race penalty is confirmed for Bruno Mello, so he's officially now in the 3rd spot. So good news on that front. It's a 2-3-5 though, in the case of Love Racing cars. As we wait on for drivers, believe Maverick Davis is the first of those who has taken the time to stop on by here today. Maverick, let's hand things over to Derek to talk to you.
Maverick, what an incredible race you had, and what an incredible run you had. Tell me your thoughts on this track after doing these 55 laps.
You know, it was the first like 50-55% of the race. I was just cruising around because I wanted to make sure I had a race, a race car left at the end to have a good finish here, and just, the skyscrapers in the background give me something else to look at other than this god-awful track.
So based on that comment, I assume you're not a fan, but you did well. How much preparation had you put into this before tonight's event?
Oh, dude, I can't even tell you how many hours I spent. I mean, I spent nights, like, thinking about how I can adjust the car to make it feel a little better, and, just a lot of laps and prep, and, definitely paid off this week.
Well, it definitely did pay off. You came into tonight for 7th in points. You scored pretty well in both the first 2 rounds, but I'm assuming, this will be a chance to jump in the points here tonight as we prepare for Atlanta. What are your thoughts as we head to the 1.5 mile super speedway?
I I really don't like super speedway racing. I don't really see a point in it. The fact that it's 1.5 miles makes it a little better because tires do matter there, and I think I got plenty of good people helping me out along the way, and definitely hoping to have a really strong finish there as well.
Good to know. Well, listen, first off, I have a last question for you. Of course, we're in Chicago tonight. They're known for their pizzas. I have 2 questions here. They're tied together. One, have you had Chicago style pizza?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay. Do you have a favorite style or type of pizza then?
I mean, I don't really mind what it is, but I really love going for like a deep dish pizza, bro.
Oh, there it is. Deep dish. That's our first one of the night. Well, before we let you go, Maverick, anyone you want to say hello to or thank you to?
All my friends and all the folks that are watching, and gotta say big thanks to all the league sponsors to help make these races and the broadcast possible, and Michael Peters, team owner, and him and Landon Mills really help out a lot every week to get prepared for these races and have a good race car.
Yeah, well, Justin, that is Maverick Davis in the 15 car. He finished second tonight here at the Chicago Street Course.
I have a lot of questions after hearing that tie-in. So there's now a sister team to the team, I guess you could say. We'll find out more in later dates. But there's a bigger question for Trent Dinkle, your race winner tonight. Unbelievably 36 seconds. First of all, Trent, what did you do to this car to be that quick on old tires, quicker on old tires, after pit stops? I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the play. I mean, I think a lot of the faster people know it by now. I don't really know why it is or how it hasn't gotten fixed yet, but it is what it is. And I'm going to use it. I mean, I definitely got lucky with Landon putting it in the wall on lap 1. I mean, I was honestly nervous that I probably wasn't going to be able to beat him. But I also know that, 55 laps around this place is a long time with a lot of spots to make a mistake. And, I mean, really, other than hitting the wall once in turn 1, I didn't hardly touch a wall at all, other than just like giving a little tap with the rear. So, I've just been liking Chicago. This track flows super cool. It's super fun, super bumpy. Just kind of let the car work underneath you. And yeah, I had a blast.
I'm going to ask this as well, too, in turn. Second fast lap of the race was set by you, by the way. What was building the car like in your progress? Who helped you in terms that? Was this all you? Because I think you outperformed some Coke teams with how you built the car.
Well, I mean, obviously Terry makes it well known, but I am kind of driving with EPI this year, so obviously Conti made a really good setup. I think a lot of the speed that I got honestly came from just trying to beat Abner. And so every week, I mean, I don't know what the hell he's running. He doesn't have as much time to practice anymore. But in my mind, I'm like, I need to find every millisecond on this track that I can to try and beat Abner. And now it seems like that might have shifted to Landon a little bit. But I mean, as far as I know, and I may be completely inaccurate, but I mean, I think Landon is using Coke caliber sets, so I think the fact that, I mean, his car did have some damage at the end, but he never got back around me after, he went 2 laps down. So, I mean, you never know. It probably would have been a crazy race if he wouldn't have wrecked on lap 1. So, but yeah, and then just a lot of practice. I mean, I probably had 8 or 9 hours this week here, so that definitely helps.
Wait, hold on. There is one point I have to ask. You're saying you and Abner are on different sets then, if I heard that right, correct?
No.
Okay.
I post whatever they want to use, and I think he ended up using what I was, but, I think he's just running so many other road leagues that he doesn't have quite as much time to practice for this. And, I mean, it does take a lot because you have to drive this car, like, at the edge of bad things happening every lap, every corner, or you lose, a second or 2 seconds a lap. So it's definitely not easy, that's for sure.
Okay, so one quick question before we let you get to the cat that's now in your window over your right shoulder.
Yeah.
Your favorite kind of pizza, and why is it Chicago style?
Favorite kind of pizza? I mean, I do like Pizza Hut. I'm probably going to get some after this race, to be honest. So, just pepperoni.
That's a pizza. That's a pizza brand / franchise. That's not a type of pizza.
Well, deep dish then? How about that? Is that better?
2 for 2. We'll let you get to the cat that wants to go outside. Congrats on the win, Trent.
Thank you.
That's Trent Tinkle and his pet cat. Race winner tonight. Well, on that note, Derek, your final thoughts on what was an eventful one here. For some, it was a very much Sunday drive on this Sunday night for Trent.
Some guys, it was a very deep dish of repairs and damage to these cars, but I had fun. There was a lot of domination here, but a lot of close battles at the same time. Trent Dinkel may have run away from the field, but I had a lot of fun here tonight, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yes, indeed. And remember, the next time out for these drivers is going to be a tough one. Not like the Chicago toughness, but tough in the hands of a super speedway. It's Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's Atlanta as a super speedway, and it is 1.5 miles. One that can eat up your tires while going 170 plus miles an hour around the track. Who can keep it out of the wall? Who can keep it power forward? We'll see. July the 9th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on RaceSpot. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye from the Windy City. For my broadcast partner tonight, Derek Watson, for our producer this evening, Hugo Weiss, and for Nick Hunter, I'm Justin Prince, saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for watching tonight's action for the PRL and its Cup Series. Congratulations to Trent Dinkel, your winner from Chicago.